Legend has it that at the immortal peak, nestled at the very edge of the world, resides a supreme being of chaos. This creature's power and domain are so immense that no one in the heavens can even hope to compare. For tens of thousands of years, this entity roamed the world, committing countless wicked deeds. Because of this, some people worship him as a god, but only out of pure terror. Others simply use his name to scare children who cry at night and refuse to sleep. But he also trained several disciples, like the fearsome demon lord, who dared to challenge the heavens. Another one of his apprentices was the dreaded demon empress of the East. On top of that, there was also the divine empress of the West, with her imposing presence. There was also the mysterious Lady of Reincarnation, always carrying her skull-topped umbrella. And even the leader of the Heavenly Alliance was once one of his disciples. All of these powerful and incredible individuals were trained by a single person, and that incredible and powerful person is me, our protagonist. Right now, we see our hero holding a gigantic meteor with just one hand. He is the master of all these lords and emperors, the supreme chaos lord. And with nothing more than a simple flick, our protagonist sends the massive meteor flying far into the distance. The silver-haired man complains that even if they want to kill him, they shouldn't use such careless attacks. He then sarcastically asks his dear disciples if he isn't right about that. In front of him, a massive fleet of ships and flying dragons stands ready for battle. A soldier reports to the marshal that their homeland has been destroyed by enemy forces. This general is Sukai, and he feels he shouldn't have to personally fight against his own master. A single tear rolls down his face as he acknowledges that his former tutor is truly worthy of the title. Filled with rage, the marshal orders all commanders to kill the demon lord at once. And just like that, the entire army shouts in unison, vowing to kill the lord and protect their lands. Our hero finds this amusing, asking if this is how his student truly desires his power. Just then, a monk appears, telling them to stand down and avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Shukai is completely taken aback by the sudden appearance of the bald man. The monk, Jaya Kang, declares that he'll first make the Lord return the stolen Buddhist treasures. Floating in midair, the protagonist replies that might be a little difficult to do. Turns out he already traded those things with some old geezers for a bag of gold coins. Hearing this, the monk becomes furious and prepares an energy-infused punch to attack his former master. The monk then yells for the Lord to surrender his life and lunges forward with a powerful strike. The blow lands squarely, creating a massive shockwave of swirling energies. Jia Kang is shocked and impressed by the sheer force his own punch unleashed. But the silver-haired man stops the attack with a single finger, stating that physical force won't be enough to kill him. Suddenly, our hero's expression shifts as a purple aura erupts around him. He looks surprised as this strange energy completely envelops him. At that moment, another disciple appears, announcing that her master's life has finally come to an end. This is Yiling, the Lady of Reincarnation, and she's here to drag him to the underworld. The hero just smiles, asking if she's trying to capture his soul directly. Hearing this, Jaya Kang praises the girl and summons a powerful sealing staff. He uses the artifact to trap his former tutor in a large cross of golden light. The Chaos Lord grips the item, remarking on the power his disciple had been hiding. He then mockingly wonders how his master could have possibly been caught. Just then, Li Yilu, the Chaos Demon Lord, appears, demanding they don't harm his body. The girl declares that his body will become her puppet, serving her every single night. The Demon Lord admits she has been saving herself all this time just for her master. Our hero calls her a hammer, but she corrects him, saying her name is Yilu. With a fake smile, he sheds a tear, saying his pupil's thoughts have moved him deeply. He then points out that his other apprentice doesn't look like she plans on leaving his body intact. Qi Zhao, the alliance leader, emerges, stating she gave him countless chances to turn back. But today, for the sake of the world and its people, she must take drastic measures. Surrounded by a powerful aura, the girl declares she will no longer spare his life. This is Qi Xiao, the Lady of the Heavenly Alliance, and a former disciple of the Chaos Lord. The protagonist closes his eyes, seemingly accepting that he's been caught this time. He tells his beloved apprentices to do as they please, for he will not resist. Qi Xiao is taken aback, asking if her master is truly admitting defeat. But the silver-haired man just smirks, telling them it's obviously a trick. He then bids them farewell, announcing he's logging off before vanishing in a flash of blue light. The sealing staff clatters to the ground, leaving everyone shocked by his sudden disappearance. Yilu is disappointed, wondering if they'll ever be able to catch him again in the future. Yilu is confused, asking why she was suddenly called sister. Chi Xiao bursts into tears, equally shocked by what she just heard. Seeing the situation, the other girls try to comfort the weeping young woman. Yilu says she knows she loves their master, but is just too stubborn to admit it. The scene shifts, and we see a guy slumped in a chair, exhausted after gaming for 7 straight days. He is Chu Sheng, and while he's complaining about the game, he only kept playing because of a mysterious prize. A week earlier, a game called Omnipotent Cultivation System popped up on his PC. The game promised that by conquering all the female characters, the player would win a special prize. In the end, he decided to play, but only for the sake of that special reward. The young man has to admit, though, that the girls in the game were really his type and quite beautiful. To win the prize, he became a disciple in the game and did everything he could to win the girls over. In one mission, he lured a monster over just so he could save a girl at the last second. After being saved, the young woman asks if he would accept a girl like her as his companion. But Chu Sheng just yells no, thinking to himself that he's already maxed out her affinity, and it's time to move on to the next one. The girl is left completely shocked by his unexpected response. Her heart is completely broken as Chu Sheng flies off in search of his next target. He stretches and thinks to himself that if he were actually transported there, he'd have died about 800 times already. Without wasting any more time, the young man eagerly prepares to see what his mysterious prize is. He starts to imagine if the prize might be a luxury mansion, or maybe a flashy red supercar. Or perhaps it's something even better, like infinite money so he'd never have to work again. With that, the guy clicks the button, knowing his path to riches depends on this prize. His eyes sparkle with anticipation for what's about to be revealed when he claims the reward, but the prize is actually a one-way trip to the cultivation world of the game. The boy is utterly shocked, completely unable to understand what the hell just happened. The screen explains that he's heading into the game with a golden core cultivation level. Despair washes over his face, and he screams out in pure terror at the news. A portal then opens up on his monitor, and the system warns him to hold on tight. The player screams desperately, saying there's no way he wants to go to that place. His hand is the last thing we see before he's completely sucked into the screen. Finally, the monitor congratulates him on his transmigration and wishes him a good journey of ascension. The story then takes us to the inner court of the Heavenly Alliance, a truly imposing place. As soon as he arrives, our hero feels sick and throws up a strange, colorful liquid. He complains about the nausea, and the system casually mentions that slight spatial disorientation is normal. The young man asks where he is, and the system informs him he's in the court of the Heavenly Alliance. He immediately starts freaking out, blasting the system for dropping him right into such a dangerous place. To return home, he needs to cultivate to the Great Enlightenment stage, which only makes him angrier. Suddenly, he hears guards approaching and panics, knowing he can't be discovered here. With that, the guy quickly scales a wall to hide, because if she finds him, it's all over. He spots a house with a light on and decides to hide there to escape the patrol. Without a second thought, the protagonist leaps through the window and into the room. But upon entering, he comes face to face with a girl who looks like she just got out of the bath. The blue-haired young woman was busy drying herself with a towel, completely unaware of his presence. All of a sudden, their eyes meet, and the girl is stunned by the sudden intrusion. She's completely frozen, unable to process what is happening right now. Our hero also panics, not knowing how to react to this awkward situation. With a grim smile, he bids farewell to his humble life, knowing he's a dead man. The young woman backs away in fear, demanding to know who he is and what he wants here. With a sly grin, he asks if she'd believe him if he said he traveled through time. This girl is senior sister Anran of the Heavenly Alliance, and she's utterly surprised. Just then, a sword floats towards the girl, who prepares to attack the intruder. She grabs the blade and unleashes a powerful strike in the direction of our terrified hero. The girl calls him an imposter and attacks with all her might, while he screams in terror. Desperate, the young man tries to dodge the attack, yelling for them to just talk things out. Seeing he has no choice, he apologizes and tells her not to blame him for what comes next. Then, with his eyes glowing, he lunges toward the surprised young woman. He manages to get close and grab her forcefully, leaving the girl in complete shock. In the heat of the moment, his hand accidentally grabs onto the very towel she was using to cover herself. He then uses the towel to deflect the sword's blow and defend himself from the attack. The girl is incredibly embarrassed and screams in anger, calling the young man an imposter. Our hero, on the other hand, just flashes a mischievous grin at the whole situation. The protagonist holds up the towel, challenging her to make a move against him now. But the blue-haired girl grips her sword tightly and unleashes a powerful water aura. With a furious glare, she unleashes immense power and attacks the young man with everything she has. The guy is startled, recognizing the technique as the cascade burst of the water spirit's sword. With that, he's thrown back by the force of the water, screaming in frustration at the attack. He then remembers that he was the one who created this powerful water attribute technique. However, as the creator of this move, our hero knows about a fatal flaw in the technique. The initial burst of the technique comes at a cost, with its power diminishing after each successive attack. The young woman yells angrily for him not to even think about running, calling him a pervert. That's why the silver-haired man only needs to dodge the first few blows, and he quickly starts evading her attacks. He thinks to himself that any normal person would be fooled by the skill's initial show of power. Then, the young man plants his feet, preparing for the perfect moment to counterattack. But in reality, by the time the move reaches its end, even a mere mortal could withstand it. The soulless senior sister Anran is completely surprised by the intruder's resilience. And with a smirk, he stops the final blow from her sword with just one hand. Our hero grips her blade with his bare hands as a golden aura emanates from his body. With just a little bit of force, the sword begins to crack and shatter in his hand. And just like that, the blade shatters into countless pieces, leaving the girl in total shock. He then mocks her, saying it looks like she bought a cheap counterfeit sword. Furious, the young woman punches him right in the face, asking what he did to her weapon. She falls to the floor in despair, having spent a fortune on that spirit sword. The girl grabs him by his clothes, demanding to know how he's going to compensate her for the huge loss. After all, the exam is in 7 days, and without her sword, she won't be able to deal with Zhang Yuhang. Devastated, the young woman covers herself with the towel, having no idea what to do now. Still clutching his clothes, senior sister Anran looks as if she's lost all hope. The young man promises to compensate her later, adding that it wouldn't be good to attract outside attention. With a red face, she seems to calm down, accepting his proposal for the time being. The girl thinks he's strong and sees an opportunity, while he's just relieved that he's a smooth talker. She'll let him go if he agrees to one thing, on top of paying for the broken sword. She then explains that in 7 days, there will be an exam, and the prize is a high-quality sword. And to make matters worse, she explains that the exam is a martial arts competition for pairs. Our hero is shocked and starts to understand what the girl is getting at. He becomes desperate as he realizes she intends to make him her partner in the competition. With a sly smile, the young woman says she wants his help to win the tournament. She asks what the problem is, but the protagonist just hesitates, not knowing what to say. The young man then awkwardly asks her to put on some clothes before they continue their conversation. The girl tells him to turn around, and the silver-haired man immediately agrees with a playful tone. While she gets dressed, our hero grumbles that he's already seen everything, and she's just being petty. Already dressed, she asks what he was muttering about, but he quickly covers it up with a compliment. Senior sister Anran then finishes getting ready, pulling on her long black stockings. With her look complete, the girl calls him a smooth talker with an air of superiority. She then adds that he'll also have to pay for the furniture damaged during their fight. The young man protests, pointing out that she was the one who broke everything with her sword attacks. But the young woman just gives a sideways smirk, completely ignoring his complaint. To blackmail him, she says she could always report his intrusion to the Alliance leader. Our hero recognizes the object as the heavenly decree and is completely shocked. We see a flashback of someone celebrating in a house during a thunderstorm. In the past, the silver-haired man was drying Chi when Anran accused him of deceiving her. The protagonist denies it, saying the girl is the very first disciple of their alliance. The young girl gets all flustered as the young man continues talking to her. He proudly says that she was also his very first personal disciple. Back in the present, the guy realizes she is Anran, the head disciple of the alliance. The young woman is pleased that the clueless pervert at least knows her title. The young man panics, knowing that if she reports him to Chiasio, he's done for. Andran pressures him about the competition, and he thinks about pretending to agree and then running away later. So, he starts shouting that he agrees to the girl's crazy proposal. But before he can finish speaking, the protagonist freezes in shock. The young woman locks him in a room and says she'll be waiting for him at the training grounds tomorrow. She then leaves, ignoring his protests as he remains trapped in the room. Alone in the dark, our hero lets out a little chuckle of pure frustration and anger. Sitting on the floor, he complains that just yesterday he was the mighty Dao Mingzi, and now he's in this pathetic situation. Suddenly, he turns around and notices a piece of cloth lying on the floor. Upon picking it up, the young man is surprised to see it's a piece of underwear, far too modern for this world. Just then, his system appears in the form of a cat girl and startles him, teasing him about his fetishes. Outside, Anran hears the noise coming from the room and glances back, a little confused. The cat girl cries with a bump on her head, complaining that he doesn't know how to appreciate her beauty. He then freaks out at the system for putting him in such a dangerous situation. The guy pinches her cheek, and the system defends itself, saying it gave him a powerful cultivation. But the young man lists off the cultivation levels and asks where the golden core even fits in. And with so many powerful enemies after him, that level of power is completely useless. Determined to escape, he decides he needs to find an opportunity to get away the next day. The next morning, the rooster crows loudly, announcing the start of a new day. With that, the silver-haired man camouflages himself in a bush, thinking there's no way he's going to that training. But two girls see the bush moving and call him disgusting and a pervert. Our hero just watches from inside the bush, waiting for the right moment to make his escape. From his hiding spot, he sees a crowd and wonders what's going on over there. Suddenly, a very smug-looking guy with a rose in his mouth grabs everyone's attention. This is Jiang Yuhang, the head disciple of the Outer Court of the Heavenly Alliance. The redhead tries to convince Anran to team up with him, saying they're a perfect match, but the young woman is furious, saying she can't stand people who abuse their power for personal gain. Thinking of a way to get rid of him, she suddenly spots our hero trying to sneak away. With that, the girl yells for the bush-disguised young man to stop right where he is. She grabs him and demands an explanation, but he awkwardly claims he was just lost. The young woman whispers for him to cooperate and asks for his name, so he says he's called Qin Shou. Then, with a smile, Anran turns to Zhang Yuheng and announces she's already chosen her partner. To prove her point, she presses our protagonist's face against her chest. And just like that, the girl announces she will be teaming up with her junior disciple, Qin Shou. At this, Zhang Yuheng is completely shocked and panics at the news. The new pair then turns and walks away, leaving the head disciple behind. Alone and humiliated, the redhead stands there, gritting his teeth in pure rage. Furious, Zhang Yuheng orders his men to find out who this Qin Shou is and where he comes from. The redhead swears that the young man is doomed for daring to steal his woman. Elsewhere, our hero is forced to sign a contract with his own blood thumbprint. Anran explains she had to use the blood oath method to keep him from running away. The silver-haired man finds it strange, commenting that this seems like something out of a demonic cult. She confirms that it is indeed a blood oath from a cult, and anyone who breaks it dies instantly. Now he's trapped and feels doomed, as participating in the arena is a death sentence. Suddenly, the young man remembers he has a golden core cultivation, and an idea pops into his head. He then wakes up his system to ask about his current power level. The young man questions how his cultivation compares to that of the Heavenly Sect's disciples. With a wicked grin, he starts planning how he'll use his power in the tournament. Based on his readings, he knows his level makes him stronger than most of them. But he remembers that Zhang Yuheng comes from a wealthy family and must have powerful treasures. So, our hero asks the system for some defensive equipment or money to buy some. At this, the system offers him 2 missions to complete to get what he needs. He then indignantly shouts that he's not the kind of person who would perform improper acts for 100 spirit stones. 3 minutes later, with his face bright red, he demands payment for the mission he just completed. He then heads to the Zheng clan's treasure pavilion to gear up and buy a defensive item. Inside, a vendor greets him, saying he'll show him the best and rarest item in the entire sect. The young man examines a golden shield, commenting to himself that the item's appearance is quite impressive. He questions if the shield can withstand strong attacks, and the vendor guarantees it, even offering a 10-fold refund. However, when he applies a bit of force to test the item, the shield simply cracks in his hand. The young man says he barely used any force, and the item broke on its own, questioning the product's quality. Nervously, the vendor claims it was a mistake by the craftsman and hastily throws him another shield. Saying that mistakes happen, the merchant suggests our hero check out a spirit sword instead. Confused, the protagonist asks why the vendor gave him a sword when he wanted armor. The shopkeeper then explains that the sword can automatically protect its master during battles. He claims the weapon can even withstand an attack from an expert, but the young man shatters it with his fingers. With a sharp snap, the blade breaks, and the tip falls, embedding itself in the treasure shop's counter. In silence, the two stare at the tip of the sword stuck in the wooden counter, saying nothing. The protagonist yells at the vendor, telling him he can't be so careless with his customers. Nervously, the shopkeeper tells him not to worry and that he can take anything from the shop for free. The vendor then goes to a curtain and starts pulling out item after item for the young man. Our hero stares at the items with an intense gaze and a very suspicious smile on his face. Meanwhile, elsewhere, an old man is giving a report to a seemingly busy Zhang Yuhang. He shows a scroll with a failure stamp, and the redhead calls him useless for not finding anyone. The servant says he couldn't find Qin Shou, and the young master yells at him to search outside the sect. Just then, another subordinate comes running in, saying someone is vandalizing the redhead's shop. Zhang Yuhang asks how that's possible, since the shop is stocked with high-quality weapons. Stuttering and terrified, the servant tries to explain the gravity of the situation to his master. He then screams that the mysterious intruder has destroyed every single weapon and piece of armor in the shop. The scene shows our hero in the wrecked shop, while the young master fumes at the news. The redhead says he'll handle it, but his servant urges caution, saying the intruder is highly skilled. Irritated, he grabs the servant by the collar, asking if a coward like him is going to solve the situation. Suddenly, a voice says the boy is right and that the intruder is too strong for him to face. The terrified servant yells for his master to kneel before the mysterious figure that has just appeared. Then, the mysterious figure calls out the young master's name, who is now on the floor, terrified. The redhead then respectfully greets the elder as the figure stares him down with glowing eyes. Meanwhile, back at the shop, the elder appears, saying they've gone too far with this mess. The protagonist slams his hand on the counter, demanding the tenfold compensation he was promised. The young man points to a box and asks what's inside, but the vendor says it's not for sale. With a mischievous grin, our hero forcefully grabs the box, ignoring the shopkeeper's protests. He figures, if it's not for sale, it must be valuable, and starts to open the golden box. Upon opening the box, his smile vanishes, and he stares at its contents with a serious expression. Inside the box, he finds a strange blue mask with several eyes drawn on it. He recognizes the item as a piece of junk he once discarded, and just then, the redhead and his goons arrive at the shop. Furious, the young master orders his men to take the item from our protagonist by force. The white-haired young man whips his head around, surprised by the sudden attack from the goons. Two brutes grab him by the arms, and he yells, asking what they're trying to do. The shopkeeper shouts his master's name, and our hero recognizes him at the same time. With a wicked and terrifying grin, the young master glares at our immobilized hero. The redhead threatens to cripple the young man with a dagger for daring to compete with him for women. He moves closer, and the protagonist calls him a scoundrel while trying to break free from the goons. The silver-haired man screams that he's a despicable pervert and tells the young master to stay away. Suddenly, Anran appears out of nowhere and lands a powerful kick right in the smug redhead's face. The blow is so powerful that the young master goes flying and smacks his head on the shop's ceiling. The goons are shocked, and the young woman wonders if this is some new kind of attack. Outside, the noise catches Anran's attention, and she becomes curious about the commotion. Our hero seizes the opportunity, deciding he's had enough, and tries to make a run for it. But a powerful voice rings out, and the mysterious elder appears, ordering the young man to stop at once. The old man says he destroyed the shop and injured Zhang, asking where he thinks he's going. The silver-haired man feels the terrifying aura and wonders who this incredibly powerful person is. The redhead's goons kneel on the floor and greet the old man, calling him elder. It's then that our hero discovers the elder is Zhang Yuhang's grandfather and is completely shocked. He realizes the redhead's grandfather is an earth immortal, an extremely powerful being. The elder launches a devastating attack, and the desperate young man begs for them to talk it out. On instinct, he uses the blue mask as a shield to protect himself from the imminent blow. The collision generates a massive explosion that completely destroys the treasure shop's facade. When the dust settles, our hero's silhouette reveals that he survived the attack. He's surprised he doesn't feel any pain and concludes the mask must have incredible defensive properties. The old man is shocked, asking if the young man used some kind of magic treasure to defend himself. Furious, the elder says he wants to see how the silver-haired man will deal with his next attacks. He then launches another ball of energy, but the protagonist yells, pleading for him to listen. Out of nowhere, Anran appears and blocks the old man's attack with her sharp sword. The young woman glares at him, warning that private fights are forbidden within the Heavenly Alliance. Our hero clings to her, saying she has to protect him so he can pay off his debt. The elder dispels his energy with a look of pure irritation on his face. The girl demands an explanation, and he tells her about the fake items and the promised compensation. And Ran is dumbfounded when she hears the debt is several million spirit stones. She then turns to the elder and demands that he pay the compensation owed to Qin Shu. The elder questions if the young woman will really oppose his family, which supports the alliance. She says she only wants the Zhang family to follow their own rules and pay the compensation. Our hero realizes the girl isn't reliable and starts thinking of a solution to the problem. He then spots the unconscious young master on the floor with a piece of paper and a pen nearby. With a very malicious grin, a new plan forms in his mind to resolve the situation. Meanwhile, the swordswoman and the old man continue to face off in a tense standoff. And Rand thinks that the elder's family techniques are dangerous and she needs to be careful. The Earth Immortal also recognizes the girl's strength for having withstood his blow. Suddenly, the protagonist calls out to the old man, who turns around, a little confused. He shows a promissory note, claiming the young master has already prepared the payment for the debt, but the note is just a blank piece of paper with 3 blood marks as a fake signature. Zhang Yuhang's grandfather is utterly shocked and furious at the young man's audacity. With that, the silver-haired man and the girl seize the chance to escape, bidding the old man farewell. As they run, he says he wants 70% of the money, but the girl demands the same. A goon asks if they're just gonna let them go, but the elder tells him to take his grandson to be treated. The elder says with a malicious smile that no one can steal from his family and get away with it. He then plans to turn the young man into the vessel for his ancestors' resurrection. Elsewhere, we see a person relaxing in a wooden bathtub full of foam and steam. It was Anran, who calls out to our hero while peacefully enjoying her bath in the water. The young woman asks the silver-haired man to get the soap for her, and he agrees from the other side of the screen. But before he goes, the young man stops suddenly with a look of pure anger and frustration. He barges in and yells at the girl for chaining him to her while she takes a bath. She claims she did it to protect him, but he accuses her of just being after the money. The swordswoman explains the money could stabilize the alliance and hopes for her master's return. With that, she forbids him from leaving her sight, and the young man runs from her, yelling that he understands. Trapped, the silver-haired man realizes it will be very difficult and dangerous to escape the alliance on his own. Suddenly, as he's thinking of a solution, a brilliant idea finally comes to his mind. He remembers that the mask is a useless item, but that it can block spiritual energy. The young man wonders how it resisted an Earth Immortal's blow, and if the Zhang family enhanced it. So he calls his system and asks if the cat girl has any kind of scanning function. He asks the system to check the mask's attributes, but the scanning function is locked. The young man complains about the system's uselessness, and the cat girl explains she lost data during the trip. He asks if he can go back to restore it, but she says he needs to take responsibility. The silver-haired man complains that with his weak cultivation, he can't do anything in such a dangerous world. Just then, the system appears with a smile, saying his cultivation can indeed be improved. With a malicious grin, he grabs her and orders her to help him improve his cultivation right now. The cat girl explains that the method for improvement is to recover the game data he lost. She then shows him that his data is scattered all across the continent in various places. To get stronger, he needs to truly beat the game by collecting all the scattered data. The young man laughs confidently, saying he can beat any game, but she reminds him about the spirit stones. Suddenly, Enron's voice calls out to him, asking for more hot water for her bath, making him nervous. He remembers the mission to slap the patriarch and demands the reward from his system. But the cat girl says the mission was to hit the patriarch, not the elders, and he doesn't understand. Just then, a malevolent purple energy strikes him, and a shadowy figure materializes in the room. With a terrifying smile, the entity says it has finally found a perfect vessel. The entity asks the young man if he's ready to offer his body as a sacrifice. Meanwhile, at the Zhang family mansion, a servant reports an incident to his master. The master of the house argues with the elder for not doing anything about the outsider who attacked them, but the old man explains he intentionally let the young man take the mask containing the ancestor's soul. The Lord understands, saying his father will have fun using the young intruder's body. He then tells his grandfather to use this to teach his spoiled and arrogant grandson a lesson. The master says now is the perfect time to act, and the elder agrees to prepare everything. Now they just have to wait for the possession, and the Lord reveals the name of the family's genius. Back at the bath, the entity attacks, saying it will show him what it means to have a shadowy hand. The young woman quickly wraps herself in a towel to protect herself and prepare for the fight. She tells our hero to hide behind her, but he complains about still being chained to her. The entity screams that no one will escape and launches a devastating attack against the two. The blow strikes the girl's soul directly, and she collapses to the ground in immense pain. The young man rushes to her side, yelling for her to defeat the enemy first and pass out later. The ancestor laughs, asking if they dare to fight against his black flame as he prepares another strike. The entity then orders the young man to surrender and let his soul be burned for the sacrifice. With that, our hero is hit squarely by the attack and seems to be in intense pain. But instead of screaming, he just endures the blow with a look of pure concentration. Suddenly, the protagonist realizes the black flames aren't actually hurting him. Confused, he wonders why he's not feeling any pain despite being attacked. The young man then deduces that, as a time traveler, he might not even have a soul. At this, the ancestor finds his lack of reaction strange and comments on the weakness of souls. The entity then decides to possess the young man's body and dives into his consciousness. But upon entering the young man's spiritual space, he finds it empty and wonders if he's an idiot. Suddenly, a mysterious hand grabs the ancestor's face from behind, taking him by surprise. The old man realizes the boy lured him into a trap and is now trying to devour his soul. The system appears and attacks the entity, which screams as its black flame is consumed. Shocked, the ancestor asks why the young man's soul is that of a woman and insults him. Inside his own mind, the hero says he'll show him who's boss and lands a powerful punch on the old man. The blow is so strong that the ancestor's soul is sent flying from the impact. The ancestor says that having two souls doesn't make him special and that he can easily defeat them both. But our hero steps on the old man, and the system reveals that this is his consciousness space. The ancestor recognizes Dao Mingzi and remembers his terrifying figure with dread. Suddenly, the protagonist returns to his normal form, and the cat girl says he can customize himself here. With a smile, he threatens to change her clothes, but the assistant says the change isn't free. Terrified, the ancestor kneels on the ground and begs the mighty Dao Mingzi to forgive him. The silver-haired man grabs him, and the old man explains he sealed his soul in the mask to survive. Lacking patience for the ghost story, our hero simply punches him again. He then returns to his normal self and demands his reward from the system for slapping the ancestor. The cat girl hands him a ball of golden light, and the young man is impressed with the reward. But the item turns out to be a piece of underwear, and the system announces it as the banner of the eternal soul. He freaks out over the reward, and the assistant says it's his own fault if he doesn't know how to use the artifact. The young man analyzes the pattern and feels it's familiar, so the system advises him to test its effects. When he tries to activate the item, the system informs him he needs 100,000 spirit stones to use it. He screams at the cost, and the assistant says that exploring its abilities is more profitable than stealing. Suddenly, an idea strikes him, and the young man seems to have found the perfect solution. In his consciousness, he asks the ancestor if his family isn't rich, and the old man is shocked. Back in the real world, he breaks free from the chains with a yell, while the girl remains on the floor. With this, he decides to pretend he's been possessed to trick the Zhang family and get their money. The blue-haired girl remains collapsed on the room's floor, exhausted from the previous attack. At the Zhang family mansion, the young master wonders why the ancestor hasn't returned yet. The head of the house becomes furious at the doubt and yells for no one to question his father's strength. The redhead is worried, complaining that the ancestor chose a country bumpkin for his senior sister. Just then, a servant announces that Qin Shou requests an audience, and the master of the house allows him to enter. The patriarch warns everyone to behave, as his father will be back soon, and they all agree. Our hero enters the grand hall, and with a nervous smile, asks if this reception is for him. In his mind, the silver-haired man asks the old ghost if there's a secret signal for the switch. The ghost tells him to say, "My dear children, I have returned," and the young man agrees to the plan. But the entity warns him that his body is weak, and if he speaks like Dao Mingzi, they will kill him. The hero ignores the warning and shouts that their ancestor has returned, leaving everyone in shock. In his mind, the ancestor recognizes that way of speaking and becomes tense about the situation. But the entire family kneels on the floor and welcomes their great ancestor. With a smile, our hero tells everyone to rise, thinking about how he'll punish the old man later. The patriarch says that with him, the family will surely win, and the silver-haired man agrees with a grin. Suddenly, he's shocked to hear that the competition will be held in the Desolate Bones secret realm. The image shows a dark and eerie place, filled with giant scattered bones. Our hero remembers that place as the territory of the powerful judge of reincarnation. Now sitting on a throne, he's furious that he didn't expect the competition to be in that place. He thinks the mask might help, but he doesn't want to risk his life with such a weak item. With a wicked smile, he decides the Zhang family is the perfect target for his plans. The protagonist says he needs to recover, but the patriarch insists on the tournament's importance. He then grabs the patriarch and yells, demanding a fortune in spirit stones right now. The master of the house panics and orders the elder to bring all of the family's assets. But before they can leave, Zhang Yuhang stops them, claiming they've all been deceived. The redhead points at the MC, saying he sounds just like before and suspects the possession is fake. The redhead questions why the patriarch would ask for the family's assets when he's never done that before. Nervous, our hero realizes the young master is cunning and the ancestor despairs in his mind. At this, the silver-haired man decides he needs to act fast before his plan goes down the drain. He then jumps up and lands a solid kick on the redhead, who falls to the ground, completely knocked out. An elder asks if the patriarch isn't being too harsh, but the Lord says he doesn't understand. He explains that this has been the patriarch's way ever since they were much younger. With tears in his eyes, the master of the house says this is his father's way of expressing love. The Lord then concludes the ancestor knocked out his grandson for not wanting to marry, and our hero agrees. With that, the fake patriarch orders them to take the young master to recover with the Wang girl. Alone, he laments that even with his strength, he can't test it with so many people around. Just then, the patriarch approaches and says he's brought all the family's assets as requested. The two stare at each other with a glint in their eyes and an expression of pure greed and expectation. Our hero can barely contain his excitement, his eyes shining at the sight of the fortune. Then, before them, a gigantic mountain of spirit stones and treasures materializes in the hall. The Lord apologizes for it being so little, but the young man says it's fine, trying to hide his shock. He's stunned by the family's wealth and thinks that now he can finally use the ancestral soul banner. With a sinister smile, he considers testing his strength on a family member to see his power. Suddenly, a loud noise startles our protagonist and the family patriarch. Just then, Anran appears, yelling for everyone to stop and flashing a Heavenly Alliance symbol. The patriarch glares at her angrily as she accuses him of wanting to rebel against the Heavenly Alliance. In time, with a malicious smile, he thinks that rebellion is impossible, but the Alliance master is in seclusion. He then plans to make the disciple disappear before her master comes out of seclusion. The young woman then draws her sword, challenging him to kill her before she can warn her master. But our hero steps between them, shouting for everyone to stop the fight immediately. He reminds the patriarch that he's participating in the competition with the girl and can't kill her. Annoyed, he complains that he risked his life to save her and says she'll never repay what she owes. Confused, the young woman asks why the patriarch called him father and if he was possessed by that strange being. He panics, thinking that if they're exposed, they'll both be completely doomed. The patriarch whispers for him to stay calm, saying he trusts his methods for the plan. He demands the girl hand over the top-grade spirit sword to spare her life. He then places his hand on the girl's head and pretends to use a black flame to burn her soul. The patriarch is confused, saying he doesn't know the move since only his father knows soul spells. At this, the young man whispers for Anran to cooperate, and she finally understands it was all a sham. The young woman looks at the mountain of money and is impressed, thinking the boy is a genius. Our hero tells the swordswoman to be quiet and fall to the ground quickly to maintain the plan. She then pretends to be hit by a soul attack and leaps backward, screaming in pain. The girl falls to the ground, screaming that she'll be controlled and turned into the patriarch's puppet. With that, everyone applauds, congratulating the fake ancestor for defeating a great talent. Anron winks at him, reminding him to share the money, and the young man gets irritated with her acting. The silver-haired man then turns to the members of the Zhang family, preparing to give an order. With a smile, he announces that they will depart for the secret realm in just 5 days. The scene shows that the realm was once a lush paradise, full of vitality and nature. But 1,000 years ago, Dao Mingzi used the place to nurture a demonic treasure with sacrifices. That act transformed the paradise into a realm of death, covered in bones and vengeful spirits. We see a fleet of Zhang family ships, and the objective of their competition is finally revealed. It is to enter the deepest part of the secret realm and retrieve the powerful divine sword. But our hero is bored, remembering he used to use this place for farming in an old game. He then asks what the sword is for, and the Lord explains that it opens a treasure vault. This weapon belonged to Qi Shao, but she lost it in a battle and was left without resources for her disciples. 100 years ago, a disciple found the blade in the realm, and now the Alliance sends people there. With the fake ancestor, the old man is certain the Zhang family will obtain the legendary weapon. Andre is furious and threatens to self-destruct, but the young man whispers for her to be quiet and not ruin everything. With that, the Zhang family ships fly through the dangerous secret realm, filled with bones and darkness. The silver-haired man says he understands the plan and pulls the girl away to prepare for the mission. An elder finds the fake ancestor's actions strange, but the patriarch says he's just having fun. With a malicious smile, the Lord turns and asks if his grandson has had any success on his side of the plan. The scene cuts to the Zhang family's flying corridor, and we hear several strange sounds coming from it. Outside a room, the guards look quite embarrassed by what's happening inside. One of them comments that the young master and the girl have been in there for days, and the other worries about the effects. Suddenly, a giant hand smacks the guards on the head, leaving them both completely terrified. A blast of energy throws the guards away, and the ground begins to shake violently. In his mind, the hero remembers an old game and a boss he promised to defeat. Back in reality, our hero vomits a rainbow, and the girl complains about him doing that now. He says he's become sensitive to transportation, and the young woman ignores him, saying the Zhang family is planning a rebellion. Angry, she recalls her master's orders and says she must report the treason immediately. But the young man stops her, saying the alliance leader is in seclusion and cannot be contacted. He panics, thinking that if her master finds out about the plan, he'll be the first to die. The silver-haired man then asks if the girl has any help from any elders or confidants of her master. The swordswoman explains that the alliance was created to fight a demon and accepted anyone. With the leader in seclusion, she can't control the other members who have their own evil plans. She laments, saying that if she had the divine sword earlier, she wouldn't be in such a bad situation. The young man comforts her, saying that strength isn't everything in the world, and she's confused by his attitude. He says that strategies are more important, and the girl asks if he has a plan for the Zhang family. With a smug smile, the protagonist says he has no plan at all, and she gets super irritated. He then reveals he has a way to help her get the sword, and shows her a skull banner. The swordswoman agrees to trust him, but the young man is secretly planning to steal all her treasures later. In front of a mountain, the hero asks where the elders are, and sees figures flying towards the top. One of the leaders then announces with a smile on his face that he himself will make the first move. At that moment, the old man rushes forward at high speed, leaving a trail of dust behind him. With that, other elders join him, and together they create a large portal of golden energy. The energy portal finally opens, revealing the entrance to the desolate bone secret realm. 2 gigantic stone columns form a gate that emits an intense and mysterious light. A leader yells that the gate will only stay open for a moment and orders all disciples to enter. At this, all the disciples run desperately towards the light, not wanting to be left behind. The young man grabs the girl's hand and tells her to hold on tight so they don't get separated inside. He then smiles and says that normally they wouldn't get separated, but he's not a normal person. As they run, the silver-haired man orders her to take exactly 50 steps forward. Right after that, he yells for her to take 38 more steps to the left without hesitation. Finally, he pulls her to take one last step, and the swordswoman asks what he's doing. The image focuses on his foot, stepping on a very specific spot on the ground near the portal entrance. At that moment, the ground cracks open, and the two of them fall together into a dark hole that appeared on the spot. They emerge before a gloomy temple, and the girl wonders where they are, but the young man just smiles and says, "Right here."